You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Supply chain vulnerabilities arise from the reliance on third-party software, hardware, and services within an organization's technology stack. Every component, whether an open-source library, commercial module, or vendor-provided service, introduces risk because defenders do not control its development or security practices. Attackers exploit these relationships by targeting upstream suppliers, knowing that a single compromise can propagate to countless downstream customers. This makes supply chain risks both highly scalable and difficult to detect. The challenge is not only ensuring that in-house code is secure, but also verifying the integrity of everything imported from outside sources. Without oversight, even trusted partners can become unintentional attack vectors. The Software Bill of Materials, SBOM, has emerged as a critical tool for transparency and tracking within supply chains. An SBOM is essentially an inventory list that details all components, libraries, and dependencies included in a piece of software. Just as a food label reveals ingredients, an SBOM allows organizations to know exactly what their applications contain. This visibility becomes invaluable when new vulnerabilities are disclosed in widely used components, as defenders can immediately identify whether their systems are affected. By requiring SBOMs from vendors, organizations improve their ability to assess risk, prioritize remediation, and maintain accountability across their software ecosystems. Dependency confusion and typo squatting highlight risks in the package supply ecosystem. Dependency confusion occurs when attackers publish malicious packages with the same names as internal company libraries, but hosted on public repositories. If a build process mistakenly pulls the public version, the attacker's code is injected into the environment. Typo squatting exploits human error, where attackers register packages with names similar to popular libraries, hoping developers accidentally download them. Both methods leverage trust in package repositories and the complexity of dependency chains. These attacks underscore why organizations must carefully control where dependencies are sourced and validate the authenticity of all imported code. Signed artifacts provide assurances of authenticity and integrity, while unsigned artifacts carry significant risk. When software packages, updates, or libraries are digitally signed, recipients can verify they originated from a trusted source and were not altered during transit. Unsigned artifacts, by contrast, offer no guarantees, leaving organizations vulnerable to tampering and impersonation. Attackers exploit unsigned or weakly signed packages by inserting malicious content that appears legitimate. For defenders, insisting on signed artifacts is a baseline requirement for trust. Verification of signatures during installation or deployment ensures that only authentic, vendor-approved components are introduced into production environments. Embedded third-party libraries and transitive dependencies add further complexity to supply chain risk. Developers may knowingly include a popular library, but that library itself may rely on additional components hidden several layers deep. Vulnerabilities in these transitive dependencies often go unnoticed until they are exploited. Attackers understand this complexity and sometimes target obscure libraries with the expectation that they will cascade widely through dependency chains. Organizations must therefore track not only the direct components they include, but also the secondary ones that come with them. This depth of analysis is necessary to uncover risks that otherwise remain invisible in sprawling software ecosystems. Vendor build environment compromises represent another dimension of supply chain vulnerability. Attackers may infiltrate a vendor's development pipeline, altering code, build scripts, or update mechanisms before products ever reach customers. Compromised continuous integration and continuous deployment (CI/CD) pipelines provide attackers with opportunities to inject malicious artifacts into widely distributed software. Because the tampering occurs upstream, customers receive signed, legitimate-looking updates that are nonetheless compromised. These attacks, such as the well-publicized breaches of major software vendors, demonstrate how trust in vendors can be weaponized. Defenders must therefore extend their security expectations to include vendor-build environments and patch processes. Cryptographic vulnerabilities form a separate but closely related class of weaknesses. They involve flaws in algorithms, implementations, or key management practices that undermine confidentiality, integrity, or authenticity. Weak cryptographic choices, such as outdated algorithms or poorly implemented encryption, create openings attackers can exploit. Poor key management, like storing keys in plain text, reusing them indefinitely, or failing to restrict access, also compromises cryptographic protections. Cryptographic vulnerabilities are insidious because they strike at the foundation of digital trust. Even if systems are otherwise secure, weak cryptography renders their protections meaningless. Understanding and addressing these vulnerabilities is essential for maintaining resilient defenses. Deprecated ciphers and outdated protocol versions exemplify cryptographic risks that persist long after they should be retired. Protocols like SSL-v2, SSL-v3, and early versions of TLS are riddled with weaknesses that modern attackers can exploit with relative ease. Similarly, ciphers such as DEES or RC4 are considered broken, yet sometimes remain enabled for backward compatibility. When these algorithms are left active, they provide attackers with opportunities to downgrade connections or intercept encrypted communications. Organizations must adopt modern cryptographic standards and remove outdated ones promptly. Clinging to legacy compatibility creates unnecessary risk that undermines secure communications. Poor randomness and weak entropy sources create vulnerabilities in key generation. Cryptographic keys must be unpredictable to resist brute force or guessing attacks. If randomness is insufficient, such as using predictable system clocks or limited entropy pools, keys can be derived by attackers with modest effort. History shows that weak random number generators have led to widespread cryptographic failures across entire product lines. Ensuring strong randomness requires using hardware-based entropy sources, vetted libraries, and proven algorithms. Without proper entropy, even strong algorithms collapse under predictable keys. Randomness is therefore not a minor detail, but a cornerstone of cryptographic strength. The interplay between supply chain compromises and cryptographic trust cannot be overstated. A single compromised library may include code that disables encryption or steals cryptographic keys. Similarly, tampered build pipelines may introduce backdoors that bypass cryptographic protections entirely. Because supply chain and cryptographic weaknesses can reinforce each other, attackers often combine them for maximum effect. This synergy magnifies risk. A supply chain breach undermines not just functionality but the trustworthiness of cryptographic protections themselves. Defenders must view these domains as interconnected, ensuring both supply chain integrity and cryptographic soundness to preserve systemic trust across the organization. Organizational governance over third-party software use is essential to managing supply chain risks. Governance involves policies, procedures, and approval processes that dictate how external components are selected, vetted, and maintained. Without governance, developers may import unverified libraries freely, expanding exposure. Strong governance frameworks require justification for third-party use, continuous monitoring for vulnerabilities, and alignment with organizational risk appetite. Governance also extends to contracts with vendors, ensuring they meet security requirements. By embedding governance into daily practices, organizations shift from ad hoc adoption of external components to disciplined, controlled use that balances agility with security. In the end, supply chain and cryptographic weaknesses can undermine otherwise well-secured systems. An organization may have strong firewalls, hardened operating systems, and well-trained users, but a single compromised dependency or weak encryption algorithm can render all those defenses moot. Attackers thrive on these hidden weaknesses, leveraging trust and complexity against their victims. Defenders who fail to address supply chain and cryptographic risks leave themselves open to silent, systemic compromises. Treating these domains as core priorities, rather than afterthoughts, ensures security programs remain holistic. Protecting against them preserves the trust and resilience of all higher-level defenses. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. SBOMs become especially powerful when used to track vulnerable components and manage remediation. When a new vulnerability is disclosed, organizations can cross-reference their SBOMs to see if affected libraries or dependencies are in use. This drastically shortens the time needed to assess exposure and prioritize fixes. Without SBOMs, defenders may struggle to determine if they are impacted, wasting critical time. SBOMs also help guide patching efforts by showing where vulnerable components exist across applications. They transform vulnerability management from guesswork into a precise, evidence-based process. In modern environments where dependencies run deep, SBOMs are indispensable for managing supply chain risk effectively. Code signing and artifact verification provide integrity guarantees for supply chain components. By requiring software, updates, and libraries to be digitally signed, organizations can confirm their authenticity before installation. Artifact verification prevents attackers from slipping malicious content into build or distribution pipelines. Verification must be enforced consistently, with checks integrated into deployment workflows rather than left to manual oversight. A signed artifact alone is not enough. Defenders must verify the signature actively. These practices make tampering more difficult and increase attacker costs. Code signing and artifact verification create a chain of trust from developer to end user, preserving system integrity. Vetting vendors and embedding contractual security requirements extend governance into the broader supply chain. Organizations must evaluate suppliers, development practices, vulnerability disclosure processes, and patch responsiveness before engaging them. Contracts can mandate specific security obligations, such as providing SBOMs, timely updates, and secure delivery mechanisms. Vetting is not a one-time exercise. Vendors must be reassessed periodically as their practices and risks evolve. Attackers often target weaker suppliers in hopes of moving downstream. By setting strict expectations and holding vendors accountable, organizations reduce the chance of inheriting risks. Strong contracts and vetting processes transform supply chain security into a shared responsibility. Secure CI/CD practices are vital to protect build artifacts and pipelines from tampering. Attackers who infiltrate CI/CD environments can inject malicious code into legitimate releases, spreading compromise widely. Defenders must secure pipelines by restricting access, enforcing code reviews, and isolating build environments from external influence. Secrets used in pipelines, such as API keys or certificates, must be stored securely and rotated frequently. Monitoring build activity provides additional assurance, catching anomalies early. Secure CI/CD recognizes that attackers target the creation process itself, not just the end product. Protecting pipelines ensures that what leaves development environments can be trusted by downstream consumers. Dependency scanning and automated alerts give defenders continuous visibility into risks introduced by third-party components. Automated tools scan libraries, packages, and frameworks for known vulnerabilities, flagging outdated or insecure versions. These alerts allow organizations to prioritize patching efforts and reduce exposure quickly. Dependency scanning should be integrated into development and deployment pipelines, ensuring vulnerabilities are caught before production. Continuous scanning also provides protection against silent drift, where dependencies evolve unnoticed over time. Without automated tools, the complexity of modern software ecosystems overwhelms manual review. Dependency scanning thus becomes a cornerstone of proactive supply chain security, enabling defenders to act with speed and precision. Key management practices are critical for cryptographic security. Strong practices include rotating keys regularly, restricting access to authorized users, and storing keys in secure hardware, such as hardware security modules, HSMs. Keys must never be stored in plain text or embedded within source code repositories. Defenders should also monitor for signs of key compromise, such as unusual access patterns or repeated authentication failures. Effective key management ensures that even if systems are compromised, attackers cannot easily access the keys that secure data. Keys are the foundation of cryptography. Without disciplined management, even strong algorithms lose their protective power. Migration away from weak algorithms is a necessary step in cryptographic hygiene. Legacy ciphers like DES, RC4, or MD5 hashing algorithms are considered broken, yet they sometimes linger in systems for compatibility reasons. Migration planning involves identifying where these algorithms are still in use and replacing them with modern secure alternatives such as AES for encryption or SHA-256 for hashing. The process must be deliberate, ensuring compatibility while phasing out insecure protocols. Attackers actively exploit weak algorithms when available, often downgrading connections to force insecure modes. Modernizing cryptographic implementations removes this path, strengthening protections against interception or tampering. Entropy best practices ensure strong randomness in cryptographic key generation. Systems must use reliable entropy sources such as hardware-based random number generators to produce unpredictable values. Inadequate randomness undermines key security, enabling attackers to guess or reproduce them. Developers must avoid relying on predictable seeds, like system clocks, which attackers can easily replicate. Platform considerations matter. Some environments, such as embedded devices, may lack robust entropy pools. In such cases, supplemental hardware modules are necessary. Strong entropy practices reinforce the strength of cryptography, ensuring that even if algorithms are sound, the keys themselves remain unbreakable through guessing or pattern analysis. Incident response for supply chain compromises affecting cryptographic material requires decisive action. If a library, toolchain, or vendor release is found to be tampered with, organizations must immediately identify all systems affected. Compromised cryptographic keys must be revoked and replaced, and trust chains reset to eliminate malicious influence. This may include invalidating certificates, rotating secrets, and reissuing signed artifacts. Communication with vendors and customers is essential to restore trust. Supply chain compromises often ripple widely, so response must be coordinated, transparent, and swift. Treating cryptographic material as high-value assets ensures that incidents are contained before attackers can leverage them further. Policy and governance mechanisms enforce supplier security standards across the organization. Policies may dictate that only signed artifacts can be deployed, that vendors must provide SBOMs, or that CI/CD pipelines meet certain security criteria. Governance bodies oversee compliance, ensuring that practices are not just written but enforced. Without governance, supply chain controls remain inconsistent and ineffective. Policies also define escalation procedures for when suppliers fail to meet expectations, ensuring risks are addressed proactively. Governance transforms security from ad hoc decision-making into an organized, systemic discipline, giving organizations confidence that supply chain risks are consistently managed. Continuous monitoring and SBOM-based posture reporting provide ongoing visibility into supply chain security. Monitoring tools track vulnerabilities across dependencies, alerting defenders to emerging risks. Posture reporting, based on SBOM data, shows leadership where vulnerabilities exist, what percentage have been remediated, and how risks are trending over time. This transparency creates accountability and enables data-driven decisions about resource allocation. Continuous monitoring ensures that organizations do not simply patch once and move on, but instead maintain an active watch for changes. In dynamic software environments, ongoing visibility is the only way to sustain trust in supply chain security. In conclusion, supply chain and cryptographic defenses are essential to preserving systemic trust. SBOMs, code signing, CI/CD protection, and dependency scanning provide visibility and assurance across complex ecosystems. Strong key management, secure algorithms, and entropy best practices ensure cryptography remains robust. Governance, monitoring, and incident response transform these technical measures into sustainable processes. Attackers thrive in the shadows of trust and complexity. Defenders succeed by shining light into those areas with transparency, discipline, and proactive management. By addressing supply chain and cryptographic risks together, organizations protect not just individual systems, but the integrity of their entire digital foundation. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.